Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for attending our annual meeting. We appreciate you doing so very much. We have a full agenda. We'll try to get through it expeditiously because we know you have other things to do. We also want to provide you with an opportunity to ask us questions and talk about things that are on your mind as well. Let me first introduce Kim Adams, who will validate the quorum for the meeting. Kim?
So we have notice of the Stonebridge Country Club Communication Association's annual meeting of the members has been properly communicated. As of 3 o'clock today, February 26, 2025, the date of today's Stonebridge Country Club Community Association, Inc. 2025 annual meeting of the members, the association has received 251 proxies.
Thank you.
We have a quorum.
We have a quorum. Okay. Thank you, Kim. Nicely done. Let me review the agenda with you quickly. So you have been welcomed. Thank you, Kim. I would like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the February 28th, 2024 meeting minutes. Would someone? We have Steve Long. Do I have a second? Connie Strubing. All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The minutes are passed. Thank you. So the first area of business is to have Howard Nottingham, who's our treasurer, board member and treasurer, cover the treasurer's report, the fiscal viability of the organization. So Howard?
Thank you. We always start out this portion of the meeting with a report from Phil Newman, who is the partner in charge of our account at RSM. Sadly, Phil has COVID and could not make it. But he is joining us remotely, so you'll still get to hear from him. Let me tell you a little bit about Phil. He has more than 30 years' experience in public accounting, focusing on private clubs. He specializes in issues surrounding audit, tax, internal controls, strategic planning, benchmarking, studies, industry trends, and governance. He is a member of the American Institute of CPAs, the Florida Institute of CPAs, the Hospitality and Financial Technology Professional. He's a global member. He has his Bachelor of Commerce in Accounting from the University of Birmingham, and I believe that's England. There's two things that's going to be a little different about today's presentation by Phil. Number one, because he's sick and not feeling well, we've eliminated the Q&A for Phil. And if you have any questions, you can contact me either after the meeting, and I'll be happy to give you the answers. Second thing is, Phil is not going to appear on video. He requested that because Phil is having a bad hair day. So Phil, are you on? Okay. Huh? Yeah. Yeah. Let me queue up a couple slides. Okay, so if you look at the operating fund balance or operating funds over the last from 2020 to 2024, and Tim and I have talked about this from time to time. We have not had a normal year since 2020. 2020 we had COVID. 2021 we had COVID. 2022 we had COVID and Ian. 2023 we had Milton, which happened at the end of 2023, and 2020, and we also had the start of construction on the renovation. In 2024 we had the end of the renovation construction and Milton. So the comparison you see on the chart, total operating revenues up 16%. That just compares 2023 to 2024. So that's, operating revenues are up 16%, total operating expenses are up 19%. And as you can see, in 4 of the past 5 years, we've had an operating deficit. Fortunately, we had some help from the government with some of the COVID stimulation packages. And in 2023, we took it out of because a lot of it was Milton damage, we took it out of the risk fund, the risk mitigation fund. In 2024, we had the assessment to cover the shortfall. Go to the next slide. The operational highlights. Golf rounds and this, again, this is a comparison of 23 to 24. Golf rounds are up 25%. Golf revenues are up 44%. And food and beverage revenues are up 25%. But if you compare those back to 2020, 2024, there is a significant difference, and that is in all those, golf rounds is late delivery of the golf course and Milton. Golf revenues, same thing, and food and beverage revenues are up 25%. So let's talk about where we are so far this year. As of the end of January, end of January, we have a positive variance of $14,600. The key drivers are the timing of expenses, and which many expenses in this club are front-loaded toward the beginning of or prior to the season to get the supplies in to do, and the repairs and maintenance as needed. When the street lights go out, when the fountains have a problem, we have to address it in the time it happens. Food and beverage is behind $146,000, the revenue side of it. That is due to Milton, and it's also due to bad weather in January. Same thing affected the golf revenues. They're behind $27,000. Again, Milton and January. We lost an awful lot of play days during that time. Management is focusing in on mitigating cost through payroll and total expenses that do not affect the membership satisfaction. We will reforecast in March to get a sense of where we will be after the numbers come in March. We'll actually do the reforecast in April to see where we believe we're going to end at the end of the year. Do your part, eat and drink here often. Still no Phil? Okay, Phil. I've already introduced you. I told him you were going to be only voice, not video, because you're having a bad hair day.
Yes, thank you for that. And I apologize again to yourself and the board and management, and most of all to the homeowners, excuse me, that I couldn't be there in person. But yes, as you can see, I'm struggling from the slide that's up. I'm very much struggling with my hair today. So rather me do that than come in and make all my friends at Stonebridge sick. So if any of you haven't heard me speak before, my name's Phil Newman. I'm the partner in charge of the RSM National Club Practice. RSM is the fifth biggest accounting firm in the United States, and in the state of Florida, we've had a niche practice in clubs and associations for about 40 plus years now, so long before my time. I've been doing this for about 35 years almost now. Been working with Stonebridge for a while, so I'm just going to give you the highlights today, since obviously I'm not in the room, but I'll try and touch on the things that I think are important to you. I'll start with the actual audit opinion. It's a clean, unmodified opinion for the year ended 2024. There was only one new accounting standard that the association had to adopt, and it didn't have any kind of material impact on the statements. You'll see that discussed in your footnotes if you take a look at your financials. There were no unusual transactions. There was only one balance sheet reclassification, so the audit went very cleanly, and we didn't have any disagreements or difficulties dealing with management with regards to accounting policies or procedures or audits, applying our audit procedures. Your financial statements, and I understand Howard has probably touched on some of this, so I'll try not to be redundant. The story of your balance sheet this year is obviously all about property and equipment and your assets and the corresponding debt coming on with regards to all the great amenity improvements that you've put in the last year, 2 years. Your property and equipment net was up about $2.7 million. That's net of depreciation expense, and total assets were up about $3 million. And then, as I mentioned, obviously you brought on the rest of the debt, financing those projects. You still had about $4.7 million in replacement fund at the end of 2024, up from 3.6 in the prior year. On your operating statement, well, I heard Howard's last comments there about do your part and eat and drink, and certainly we would endorse that, and it looks like you were doing that. When you look at your income statement, you can see the profit and loss effect of the amenity improvements and them being put into service. Food and beverage revenues are up, golf revenues are up. The operating statement might look a little strange this year because it comes down to exactly zero in the operating fund. But as all of you know, since you paid it, 2024 actually ended the year with a deficit of $545,852, which then obviously the board assessed for. So that operating assessment, since it relates to 2024, the expenses were incurred in 2024. You'll see that number coming in as revenue underneath your typical maintenance fees line. So that's why it comes exactly to zero, and that's fully discussed in footnote 10 to your financial statements. So again, we certainly would echo the comments there of your treasurer. You've got fabulous facilities. You should use them, and that actually takes me into, I know you're going to be voting on a couple of amendments over the next while here. I think maybe starting tomorrow. And if you haven't seen it, I know there's some of the data that's been put out for you guys to consider, certainly with regards to the resale fee, a change in that amount. You're certainly, I'd say, well behind where you should be in terms of what you're charging for what people get when they buy into that community. You guys know your friends in other communities, and you know you're very much towards the top end of the bundled community clubs around Southwest Florida, and I can tell you clubs that you probably wouldn't consider competitors to yourselves because of the quality of their amenities in terms of they're not as nice as yours, are charging a lot more than you guys, which puts a lot more into the capital funds of the club and takes less pressure of all the existing homeowners. It's kind of the concept of the traditional country club, and I think bundle communities as a whole kind of left a lot of dollars on the table during COVID when everyone, as we know, was rushing to join clubs in South Florida. Still a great place to live, and people still want to come here. So, kind of makes sense, right? That the buy-in to your community today should be more than it was before you did all the amenity improvements, and it certainly should be competitive with other communities. And I know there's some slides out there that shows you what some of those communities are currently charging as a resale fee. And I can tell you from talking to those communities, I worked with about 25 communities like yourselves in Southwest Florida. It's not stopping there. They are certainly going to continue to push that number up as a recognition of the value that's being created by the amenities. So I just wanted to share that with you. I wish it was in the room to speak a little bit more on it, but you're definitely tackling something that a lot of your other competitive or similar club communities have been doing. And then the other part of your amendment with regards to being able to um, pay any kind of a capital assessment, pay it up front. that's pretty common at most of the communities we deal with. And it's interesting, certainly what we see is when that option is on the table, a lot of people actually go ahead and prepay it. I think it's something when the day comes that you're going to sell your unit, that is a negotiating tool. But what we typically see is it often benefits the association as a whole and actually the overall cost of your debt, because there's a lot more money comes in up front that can reduce the need to actually draw on the debt over a longer period of time. So you save interest as a whole, and obviously that can be figured out and passed around the homeowners overall. So I just wanted to mention those couple of things because they are things that I think have been outliers with Stonebridge over the years. So good luck as you consider addressing those. I'm sure there's lots of information for you to chew on. Just want to finish up by apologizing once again that I couldn't excuse me, I couldn't be there in person. Um, I will commend you again for increasing your beverage consumption by 42% from the prior year. And so I will sign off by saying I'm going to go take a dose of my own medicine, and I think I can now go and make a hot Jameson. So please enjoy the rest of your meeting, and I greatly hope that I'm able to be in the room with you next year. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you,
Bye.
Phil. We've done all of this. Okay, now we're coming to something that I think is very important for the association and very important for Stonebridge for a lot of different reasons. You have a chance to vote on two separate amendments, and we want everyone to vote, and we would like everyone to vote yes. The board has recommended that you approve two amendments to the declaration. One is the new owner capital contribution, also known as the resale fee, and member vote. The second one is funding option. Now, I'm going to first tell you what they're not. They're not an attempt to raise money for a project that the board is working on currently. That's not what these are for. The board has no project that we are working on no major project that we are working on currently. They're not an attempt to repay a loan or a deficit that we're trying to hide from the community. That's not what this is. We don't have that. And they're also not any nefarious thing that anyone has told you we are trying to do with this money. We are doing it for the benefit of the community. Now, what they are, to be clear, is to codify the right of each one of you, each household, to vote on major renovation and capital projects. You do not have that right in the declaration today. Under these amendments, under the one amendment, you will. It will also give the members the option to pay for capital improvements up front rather than being part and paying over a period of time. In the golf course and bistro renovation, we took out loans, and you are repaying that loan every month. We pay, or you pay every quarter. Every quarter you pay on that loan. You could have, if we had this amendment in force, you could have paid for it up front and not incurred the interest expense. Number three, we want to keep Stonebridge up to date and competitive with like bundled communities. We cannot do that without capital. It will strengthen our balance sheet, because if people pay up front, we will incur less debt. If we have more capital from the new owner contribution, we will have more capital. So all in all, I think it's a very positive thing for the community. The proposed amendments are the result of unanimous endorsement by the Finance Committee and the Strategic Planning Committee. They also endorse unanimously by the Amendment Facilitation Committee, and the names of those people are on the thing. I'm not going to read them all, but they have all come forward and say, how can we help? We really want to help get this through. Also unanimously supported by the board and supported by realtors, industry experts, and RSM. So if you look at the resale fee capital, the new owner capital contribution, the resale fee is paid by the new owner. It does not come out of anyone in this room's pocket. The new owner contribution will collect the new owner contribution to our collective future. Capital funds keep Stonebridge competitive, protects our investment. Recent examples that we've used this for: the airport polling fence, the ice cream machine, the pasta maker, new fitness equipment, tennis court viewing area, and golf course restroom upgrades. The potential uses: greater security at the airport polling by having gates that people and at both the sidewalks and the roadways where people can't come through, sidewalk remediation, and the shade structure for the pool deck. What we are proposing, well, resale fees exist at almost all bundled clubs. Ours is $6,197. The average, which I will show you the bundled clubs in just a moment, is $12,700 at other clubs. Right now, in order to change the fee, it requires 67% of the owners, or 536 votes, to change the fee. And that is not practical in a fast-moving market like this thing has really moved up quickly. Realtors, RSM, and Club Benchmarking, which is a company that looks at clubs, say it does not have an effect on the sales price or the time on market, days on market. Okay, here's the list of clubs, and here are their resale fees. Now, the three that I think we compare ourselves most closely with are Naples Lakes, Vanderbilt, and Vasari. They're at $13,000, $15,000, and $12,000. And by the way, we are proposing to eliminate, so if you change homes here in Stonebridge, we're going to eliminate a resale fee on that. Currently, that's $1,600, Tim? The resale fee on $1,200. Okay, so the amendment would give the board flexibility to set the fees within limits. And that's the same process that exists in other Southwest Florida clubs. We say in the amendment, you have to take into consideration what other Southwest Florida clubs or our competitor clubs or our peer clubs are when setting the fee. And we have a cap, and that is unique to Stonebridge. And when I talked to Phil Newman about this several weeks ago, I said, tell me what you think about the amendment. He said, I like everything except the cap. You shouldn't cap it. But we put a cap in so that for the protection of all of us. We would eliminate the fee for current owners purchasing another home under most circumstances. And that is, if you buy a home and you sell your home, then there would be no fee. There would be a fee if you buy your home and keep your previous home for rental or as an investment. This could generate in excess of an incremental $250,000 a year for Stonebridge for us to be able to, and it doesn't cost anybody in this room anything, which is really the beauty of it. Now, so that's the presentation on the new owner capital contribution. We're going to have a question and answer period on just that piece now. So we're not going to take questions about general issues, and we're not going to take questions on the other amendment. So if you have any questions or if you have any objections, I'd like to hear from them now. Please step up to the microphone and keep it, let's keep it brief because we want to be mindful of everybody's time. Yes, sir. You need a microphone. There are people in the back that won't be able to hear you.
And there are people being recorded. People online. Online.
And please tell us your name and where you live.
Jerry Oldak, Leamington Lane. Hopefully this is going to pass. Now, things are going up so quickly. If we want to increase it again, do we have to go through another vote?
No. What it does is it gives the discretion to the board of directors with guidelines. Oh yeah, to exceed the cap, you'd have to go to a vote, but we're trying to keep this, trying to keep it simple and good for everybody. Yes, sir.
John Weiss, Willow Bend. Good evening, everybody.
John, come up to the microphone.
This is a great idea.
John, come to the microphone. You're online. And by the way, he's the only guy in the room that doesn't need a microphone.
Okay, so John Weiss and Willow Bend, my lovely wife Kathy and I have been here for about 5 years. This is a great idea. I wish it wasn't called a resale fee. It should be called a new owner purchase or something like that. But in the last couple of weeks, Kathy and I hosted 2 couples from our club on Cape Cod, and we asked them if this was a concern, and both of them said, not at all. It's a one-time line item. I'd be willing to pay up to $20,000 to buy into Stonebridge, close on a Tuesday, get a tea time on a Wednesday. Can't do that anywhere else. One of this gentleman is looking at veranda in Fort Myers, $85,000 to play golf after he buys a home there. This is a wonderful idea. It will not hurt our values at all. It's a plus for the club. It's a vote that should be a positive yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Yes, and it is going to be called the new owner capital contribution, John. Anybody else?
Johnson fired me. Took $15 from me today.
Andy Strubing and I were able to take he and Steve Brown, so he's still angry about that. Raj Sayal, Laura Lee and I have lived here for 15 years, have enjoyed this community tremendously, intend to enjoy it for many, many more years ahead of us. And I just want to commend everybody in this room. I can't think of a time that the board or certain members of committees, in my opinion, have looked out for owners as you have here. This is a no-brainer to me. And we heard from Phil Newman what we are seeing in our competitor clubs. 2 experiences like John just articulated. One, we had a rental before we sold it a few years ago. The people that last rented our place moved to Vanderbilt Country Club, and they paid that $15,000, and it is a sister club to Stonebridge. They would have paid more. So the fact that I came to recently learn that we were at $61.79, it's like we're just leaving money on the table. So I hope people see it that way. I think by reclassifying the nomenclature around it, it'll make it clearer. But this will allow us, as you said, to do things. The other thing that I thought would be important, I didn't hear it clearly, Howard, so forgive me if you said it, and you may be getting to this, but for those that are on the fence or don't understand the issue as much as you may want to, please take the time to understand it, because if you don't vote, your non-vote will count as a no. And that means that this will not go ahead. So if you're unsure of what this means, please get involved. If you are sure, vote. And if you want to vote a no, but please don't leave your vote sitting on the table.
A little short for this mic. I'm Kathy Allen. I'm from Carrington, and I've been an owner since 2000. So I've been here a long time, watched many changes in Stonebridge over this time. Many positive things and maybe some not so positive. The question I have on this, when you're talking about it, we have a cap. What are you proposing as far as what the new move-in fee would be at this time?
Well, that will come as a recommendation from the Finance Committee to the board, and then the board will vote on that. It will be between, I would say, if it were up to me, and nothing is ever up to me, it would be between $12,000 and $15,000. And that would put us in the range of what we consider to be our peer clubs. And I don't think we should be less than that. And the average is 12.7, and I will tell you, I do not consider, nor do I want Stonebridge to be an average club.
Well, I don't either, and have always enjoyed the amenities that we have. I think it's important that we do keep the type of club we have. However, I'm just interested, we want everything to be equitable throughout our community. That's how our dues are paid, that's how everything is paid. That to belong to Stonebridge, we all pay the same, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I'm curious, have you ever looked at, with this capital reserves that comes up, where the majority of that money, in which community it comes from? And is that really equitable to all the members? I know we have a choice of where we live, whether we buy, whether we, get a larger in Stonebridge, but to me, this is not spread throughout. When you talked about what this is used for, the sidewalk, the fence, and all these items that we're all going to enjoy and use, it's not coming equitably from all the members. That you are putting this buy-in fee. I don't disagree that we have some kind of fee, but maybe the way we come about what that number is may need to be reconsidered. This is a bundled community, which means when we buy, we can register for golf immediately. That's part of why you come to a bundled community. But I have a concern, and maybe you could tell me where, as each development, where that money, how much is coming from each group?
From each neighborhood?
Yes.
I don't know the answer to that. But what I do know.
The board should know that, shouldn't they?
Well, no, but what I do know is that whether you are in Manchester or Ashton Oaks or whatever neighborhood you're in, you have the same access to the same amenities that the people in Manchester or Ashton Oaks. So if you are thinking that we should do it on the basis of values at homes or how much money comes out of each community, you have the same access. As an individual, you have the same access. And, no one gets golf preferences over the people. The people in Manchester don't get golf preferences over the people at other neighborhoods. And you have the same access to the dining facilities and every facility. And that's what this is for. This is for the common areas. This is not for a community. You have reserves in your community to deal with the stuff that exist in your community, the assets in your community.
That is correct. But I think to have everything open, it's beneficial for people to know where is the majority of that income coming from.
Oh, we can figure that out. I mean,
But that was not brought forward. And so I have trouble with that you're going to have some people, if it's at 12,000, you're going to have some buyers, when they move in, it's 3% of their purchase price. If they go to the high end, it's 0.1%.
correct,
0.1 of 1%.
correct, correct.
That equity, I kind of find that maybe it is going to be accepted. Great if it is, and people don't care what they pay to get in, but I do feel you're putting a burden on some homeowners.
I understand the argument. I understand, and I appreciate what you have to say, but I still think you have the same access to the same amenities.
Little community, and we all pay the same amount for our assessments.
Right. Yes, John?
Just comment this, that both the people I had down, my wife and I had down last week in Cape Cod, both were looking at a condo between $450 and $550. It didn't make any difference to them. It was a one-time fee. They're going to pay it. They're going to get the tea time. They're happy to be here. I understand the rationale, but it doesn't really make a difference to people who want to move.
Yes, sir.
Name is Jerry Vashon. Barbara and I have been here since 2015. My question is, if we want to sell our unit or our house to a family member, is the fee applicable to that?
The answer to that is, under the way it's written, yes.
Okay.
I think there's a way around that. I'm not an attorney, nor am I a tax advisor. But if you put the house in a trust, it's not I don't think the trustees change, but the ownership does not change.
Great.
So there's a way around it, I think.
Thank you.
But check with an attorney. Any other questions or comments? Great. We're going to have Brian Sharon talk about the other amendment.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming today. Appreciate it. It's a good crowd. So Howard covered the resale amendment, which we, as you know, just to reiterate, will be called the new owner capital contribution. That's more descriptive of what it really is. I'm going to cover the other amendment. Now, one of the things that's really come clear to us more recently is that some things have been sort of lost because this amendment really covers two key things. Howard already alluded to a little bit to the funding option. So very simply, well, let me back up and say where we are right now, okay? So right now in our current declaration, and I know some of this is a little hard to believe, but it's true. So we have the ability to have a special assessment, okay? We have the ability to have a special assessment. And that's nice, but the special assessments in our declaration are limited to unanticipated costs. And so therefore, anything that's not an unanticipated expenditure cannot be considered a special assessment. And in our declaration, only special assessments are subject to a member vote. So what happened here was initially we were looking to add a funding option for all the members here. And it's totally an option. But as we did that, we realized that the board right now is really not restricted, and a future board wouldn't be restricted from spending a large sum of money without going to a member vote. For instance, this addition over here, the bistro, the golf course, that certainly was not unanticipated in any way. It was planned. So the board couldn't call it a special assessment. But the board did go to a vote because the board decided to go to a vote. And that was the only reason. There was no requirement that the board go to a vote on that. So I just want to be clear. The declaration as it exists right now, in our opinion, is flawed. And we're trying to fix that. So we started out with the funding option, which I don't think anyone would disagree with. I mean, it's just an option. You don't have to take advantage of it if you don't want to. But the vote piece of it is a very key part of this other amendment. So our recommendation in this amendment is to expand the definition of a special assessment. And why? Because we want to essentially put everything, allow anything and everything to be called a special assessment, because then it's subject to a member vote. Otherwise, it's not. So what we did was we expanded the definition of a special assessment to unusual, unbudgeted, or non-recurring, in addition to unanticipated. So that would make them any of those things subject to a member vote, which is not the case now. The other thing we did was we added, if you recall, we passed this resolution and then we came back and changed some things in it. We changed it because of input we got. And one of the key inputs we got was that if a future board decides not to call something a special assessment, but still has a large capital project out there that they want to go, they could sort of get around this and not go to a member vote. So we changed the language to close that loophole, so now it's for any special assessment or any large capital project over the specified threshold. So that pretty much closes that up. So essentially, it means that any future large capital project here will be subject to a member vote. And as I said, and we can also, because we do that, and because we do that, we will be able to offer people a payment option up front. There is a resolution, which you may have heard, that exists right now. It's from 2018. The board passed it back then. And that resolution, it's just a resolution of the board. It can be revoked at any time. So it's not a permanent thing. If we change the declaration with this amendment, this will all become, for the most part, permanent, unless down the line a 2/3 vote wants to take it back out. I don't anticipate that happening. But right now, that 2018 resolution, which, like I said, can be revoked, it does call for a member vote for anything over 20% of the base dues, dues plus base assessment. So that roughly comes to, and I was just speaking to a gentleman here, I'm going to verify his numbers, but what's our number on that, Tim? Yeah, just under 2 million. Now, obviously, it's a formula, so it will change, with inflation and money and the amount of money that comes in and so on. But essentially, it's a formula. That's the formula that exists in that resolution from 2018. We've maintained that same formula in this amendment that we're proposing. So we didn't change that. That's what it's always been in the declaration, and we're not changing that. However, the 2018 resolution states that it has to go to a member vote if it's over that threshold. But it only requires a majority of those who vote. It would be a pretty low threshold. So we're changing that as well in the proposed amendment. We're changing that to be the majority of the full membership. So in our opinion, that's a big change. So in essence, what this second amendment does, I don't mean it's the second amendment, but our second amendment, what it does is it gives you a funding option, a payment upfront option for any future large capital project. It maintains the threshold at which a special assessment has to go to a member vote, but it essentially ensures that not just special assessments, any large capital project over that threshold goes to a member vote, and it would not be the majority of those who vote, it would be the majority of the membership. So that's really, in summary, that's what this amendment does. And people have asked, we had a really good question at one of our informational sessions, and the question was, what was your motivation to do this? Well, the motivation to do it was to make things right. I don't think any of us up here, and I would assume none of you out there, want a future board to be able to spend a large sum of money, over $2 million, and never go to a member vote. And that's what we're fixing here. As Howard noted, we have no plans. We have nothing on the burner over here that we want to fund. There's nothing hidden here. And I know that's probably why it's very hard for some people to believe. We're just trying to do the right thing and fix this for the future. I mean, that's really all it comes down to. So I don't think I left anything out there. Nope. So we'll go to questions on just this amendment. I know some people may have formulated new questions about the resale amendment, but let's just stick with this one for now. So, Kathy, microphone.
First of all, Kathy Deedy, Wexford Court. I'd like to thank the Finance Committee and the board for addressing this issue. When I was on Legal and Governance for a number of years, we looked at our declaration and looked at some of the issues that needed to be addressed. I don't know if members realize, but our declaration is 25 years old. And that declaration, at the time, and it has served us well, but at the time, it really served the developer. And the changes that you're proposing really serve this membership now and today. And I think you've done a great job. I think that the controls that you have put in for the members having input with your threshold is very important and should mean a lot to the members. And I secondly was very sad that we had to pay an interest on a loan for this community. And if we have opportunity to make changes that we don't need to have the interest and we can make our finances more solid, I think it's great. You've done a great job. I love the wording. I am in full support of doing it.
Thank you, Kathy. You know, Kathy makes a great point there. If you think of this in terms of, you know, when this community was first developed and this declaration was put together, the developer really didn't want your opinion, you know? So this thing was structured in such a way purposely so that they could do things without having to go to a member vote. But times have changed, and that's not the way it should be now or in the future. So that's a good way to think about it. Thanks, Kathy. Any other questions? Ah, come on. None? Oh, there you go. Oh.
Hello, I'm Lisa Newman. We're new owners in the Thornbrook neighborhood. And one question that I have is historically, when a non-vote is a no vote, how difficult has it been to get the majority vote?
I mean, I'm not going to speak from a historic standpoint because I'm certainly not the longest standing member here. This is our 9th season, I think. But just at a high level, 2/3 is tough for any organization. 2/3 of membership, 2/3 of Congress, whatever it is. I mean, that's a hurdle. And, you know, we're going to talk about that a little bit more about that. You know, it's interesting that, you know, I think when we did for the vote for this, the most recent renovation, we actually, do you remember the numbers we had on that, Tim? Okay, so we had over 700 votes, not all, yes, no, but we had over 700 votes, which is pretty impressive, and that came in really fast, right? But that was a major, see, this is the difference, and that's a good question, and I know I just met you yesterday, but nice to see you. You know, we were going to spend, you know, $16 million. That's a little bit more to get people, you know, revved up about something, right? And you're going to have this great new golf course and this new bistro and everything else, and that'll motivate people, right? This is just a vote to change our governing documents. It's not really exciting, so it's going to be tougher. We haven't really had. I know there was past votes to change the declaration, and sometimes they had to go through how many different. You had to change it a few times, go back to a vote, right? Yeah, Tim said they typically failed with getting the 2/3 vote. This one, like I said, to me, this is all good stuff. There's nothing hidden here. It's just to make things better for all of us going forward. So, but I still think it's going to be an incredible challenge to get 2/3 because it's not an exciting vote. You know, it's like a procedural vote kind of thing. But we do need it, and I encourage all of you to vote. Danny, did you have a question? Okay, yeah, go ahead. Then I'll close it up with the other thing. Oh, wait a minute. You're going to have to wait like 10 minutes.
I'm happy that Bill Mulligan, Brayburn, 10 years, Wendy and I have lived here, and we've loved it just gets better. I'm really happy with what you've got going here. I really think that the issue with these two amendments is not just the understanding of it, but it is exactly what you're talking about. I think our biggest issue here is, and I'm not going to say apathy, but I am going to say apathy, what a great turnout. So, but we need everybody, to understand if you have any doubts or questions to ask. Ask your friends, ask your neighbors, ask board members, ask management. We need to get out the vote. There's a lot of people that aren't here, and that's a huge number we have to come up with. So whether it's you're a yes or a no, understand it, and please talk to people and get the vote out.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. Great message.
Hi, I'm Andy Streebing, and Connie and I live in Ashton Oaks. We've been here since 2021. And to live here is just such a blessing for all of us. We have a fabulous community here. And I would personally exhort everybody here to vote for both of these resolutions and to talk to whoever it's necessary in your community to get them out to vote. And I'd like to hear just some additional commentary about what we're going to do to get the vote out. I think the voting period is going to go for a minimum of 30 days, if not up to 60 days. Yeah. So we've got some work ahead of us to get 536 votes, and I think it's going to take all of us working together to do that. A couple of comments. This puts more control in all of our hands, both of these. Give us more control, and it put more structure in place for the board and the transparency. And I deeply, deeply appreciate the transparency, the openness, the honesty that the board has put forward in communicating this out to everybody. The resale fee, the new purchase fee, actually, we all have to face the financial challenges of managing an organization like this. It just puts us in a better place to manage the financial challenges that are inevitably going to come up, right? We're deferring those fees away from all of the folks here. We're actually making that position better and saying new folks coming in can help to carry that burden. I think that's fantastic. And then with regards to the funding option, the opportunity to defer interest and to do a one-time pay, that puts more power in all of our hands. So I deeply appreciate the way the board has said, no, we're not going to retain that power here. We're putting it back out to the folks. And again, I would just exhort everybody, we got to work together to get this to happen. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. Yeah, just 2 points on that. One is on the resale fee, if it goes into a fund that, one other thing we did, I don't know if we really addressed this or not, but it goes into the resale reserve fund. And right now, our declaration says that's to be used for working capital. Well, our feeling is that a future board could look at that and say, well, working capital, we could define that as we can use it for operations and this and that. The other thing that resale amendment does is it makes it clear it's only for capital improvements, enhancements, et cetera. It cannot be used for operating operations. It can't be used for operating deficits. So it's all going to be used to rebuild our infrastructure, get new things, and so on and so forth. And if we don't raise this, we're still going to have to do a lot of those things. I mean, we have aging infrastructure here. Stuff's going to have to get done. That means it comes out of your pocket. And all I know is if someone comes to me and says, instead of you paying for it, someone out there said they'd pick up your tab for you for a while, I would say, well, sure, absolutely, why not? Because that's really what it comes down to. We're going to need that money. And I know the argument's been, well, if you go to another community, if someone's shopping bundled communities, we're staying competitive with them. They're not going to go to another community and see unless it's a community that's not really comparable to what we have here. But if they're going to go to a comparable community to us, they're going to get that. They're going to see that same resale fee. It's going to be there. It's going to be a closing sheet item. So that's incredibly important to think about. That we're obviously going to need the funds. But you can see based on the history of what it's been used for some pretty good things that benefit everybody here, no matter where you live. So, any other questions?
Hi, Ray Oth here. As a realtor for 55 years, I'm considering the transfer fee there. Anything that's a transfer to a family member with a life tenancy or property is willed, or if it becomes a trust. I'm hoping you consider all those three items on not charging that fee under those circumstances. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ray. Appreciate that. I'm sure there's going to be circumstances that come up that, just unanticipated, but, we'll figure that out. Mitch just, commented to me, and I know it's a thing that I say a lot is, I didn't know anything about bundled clubs when I bought here, or when we bought here, sorry. Things were going so well. So I really didn't know anything about bundled clubs. And it's interesting, as I got to know more and really understand more of this stuff, if I was looking today at bundled clubs, I would want to know, what's your resale fee? What do your reserves look like? What do your financials look like? I didn't ask for any of that. We just bought, sort of on a whim. And, we're extremely happy we did. We love it here. But I would look for those things. And frankly, knowing what I know now, if I went to a club and they had like a $3,000 resale fee, I would turn around and walk away, because that tells me they're not reinvesting in themselves. And the fact is, we need to reinvest in ourselves. We can't let this, your home properties are directly tied to how good this club looks, how well it's maintained, and what amenities it has. So if you think about it that way, you would not want to, I wouldn't want to join a club that's not reinvesting in itself, or that doesn't have adequate reserves. We do a good job with all those things, as this is just another step in that direction. So, anything else? Wrap it up. Thank you.
Okay, it takes 536 votes. We need every one of you to vote. We would like every one of you to vote yes. I know that probably is not going to happen. Not voting is a no vote, and it's just that simple. If you don't vote, it's a no vote. And everyone on the board, everyone on the finance committee, everyone on the strategic planning committee, and a lot of you out there believe this is really, really good for Stonebridge. And I happen to believe it's really good for Stonebridge. We're in good financial shape, but if we can enhance our balance sheet, I'm all for that. Don't sit this one out, vote. Brian and I are going to be at the bar. We're not familiar with that. But we're going to be at the bar after this meeting. If you have questions or comments or concerns about any of this, please come up and ask us. We don't want people to vote without full knowledge of what we're trying to accomplish. You can also email us or call us. We're happy to talk to you at any time on either one of these issues. I think that's now up to you, Mr. Burnett.
All right, thank you. The amount of work required to get to this meeting by these two gentlemen and a number of other members of this board was immeasurable. It took 2 votes at board meetings, a lot of research in between, and I think it's appropriate to thank those members who worked so hard on bringing this wonderful opportunity to us, and I would like to thank you, gentlemen, for doing that. Thank you. So this is the last time you have to put up with me. Some people are happy with that. I think my wife is happy with that. I do have the opportunity to address you one last time, and I'd like to do that now. And I've kind of written it out so I wouldn't screw it up. I still may screw it up. A year of adapting and responding and a little innovation. I like to title these things. It makes me feel better. When I became president this time last year, I thought 2024 would be a pretty quiet and uneventful year. We just completed the largest renovation in Stonebridge history, and we're all enjoying the fruits of that, playing golf, hanging out in the bistro and the pool area. boy, was I wrong. Shortly after completion, we began to experience unanticipated consequences. I like that term that Mitch gave me. Unanticipated consequences of the renovation, including member concerned with perimeter landscaping. We all remember that. Non-resident membership behavior. We all remember that. Airport road security, to name just a few of these things. But I have always believed that we should be judged more on not how we experience adversity, but how we handle adversity. And throughout 2024, that is exactly what the board and management has done. To address these issues, we escalated the perimeter landscaping plans, as we all know, which looks pretty good now. We built a property-long fence along airport pulling, revised, implemented new guidelines for non-resident members, along with many other actions, things that made a difference to our community. Although we didn't get everything right the first time, we were not afraid to go back to the drawing board and take action needed to fix member concerns. As I look back on 2024, that is what I am most proud of. It's not that we got it right, but we had the courage and the humility to go back and fix it and get it right the second time. And I think we've done a lot of that. Additionally, in the innovation area, we introduced Bocce at the Bridge in about a 6-month period of time. A program that now has approximately 300 members on teams and as substitutes, bringing together old friends, new acquaintances, golfers and tennis players, and folks that no longer play either for a fun, more and more competitive, social time every week. And lastly, this I get emotional about. I'd like to thank Tim and his entire management team for working with the board and me personally to address all these things. I'd like to thank the board members for their dedication to you and me, the members. I appreciate it very much. I gotta get through this. I would also like to thank members who called me, sent me texts, sent me emails, and met with me to discuss the issues and concerns that they had. We didn't always agree on them, but at least we all had a chance to discuss them. That was always appreciated. It's been my honor to be your president the last year. Thank you. Tim Jones.
Well, that's going to be a tough one to follow. But I will give it a shot. When we're done here, the bar will be open. We'll have some hors d'oeuvres right behind me in the lounge. Also, the bistro is open, so feel free to join us down there. So I'll keep it brief. I know we have a few more things to get through, but I wanted to remind everyone that we have an annual survey coming up. It's a member satisfaction survey. That is actually coming out on Monday. You'll get an email from the club. Use your member number to get access to it. The survey is a little bit different than the vote on the declaration because both in the household get to do the survey. The vote, on the other hand, is one per household, but on the survey it is both. So please, everyone, fill out the survey. We're going to do some drawings during the survey, so at the end of each week that the survey is open, there'll be a drawing. If you do the survey early, you'll be entered into all the drawings, so the earlier the better. I also wanted to mention this annual meeting is going to change next year. Through the work, actually, of Mrs. Rushalk, we're shifting the timing of the annual meeting, so it's going to be earlier in January. The reason for that is to try to get all the committees formed in January and get the committees active during the month of January. Currently, the committees turn after this meeting. So the committees really don't get formed until like the latter part of March, and then people are leaving for the season. And then when they come back and pick up their committee business, it's getting near the end of the term. So we're gonna see a change in that. Next year, the annual meeting will be on the second Monday of January. Couple of operational things. I first want to thank the management team. They always crush it. You know, we had a busy year getting the renovations done, getting open. Kudos to the whole team. Also want to recognize Joe Foster, who was promoted from clubhouse manager to the assistant GM. They all know who you are, Joe. A couple of other operational things. It's a little warm in here. The AC has not been working for some time. Good news is the parts arrived today. So next week, we should have some AC pumping better in here. Another topic that might come up during comments is about a recent issue with kids, presumably kids in Brayburn. This happened a few months ago where there was some challenges, and over this past weekend we had some vandalism again, unfortunately. Joe's taken the lead on that. We've reached out to the police. We have not heard back from the police, unfortunately. We're also looking at adding some cameras in that area, possibly some trail cameras, to try to get some footage of these kids. One of the things we talked about with the resale fee is the potential of beefing up the gates at the airport entrance. Not that that's where these kids presumably are coming through, but that would tighten up security. That would be an ideal use of resale funds. And the AC unit is another example of use of resale funds. The AC unit that's being replaced next week is on the reserve schedule, but unfortunately, the reserve schedule didn't have it funded to what the cost of replacement is. There's some new regulations that you may have heard of where different type of freon, I think it is, that has to be used. So these AC units are actually going up a lot in price. So the AC unit that we're replacing next week is being funded out of master reserves, but it's underfunded by about $30,000. Now, if we had enough money in the resale fund, we could actually fund that difference through resale. That way we could keep the money in the master reserves whole. We don't have that much money in the resale fund to be able to do things like that, but with this amendment, that's something we could do in the future. And that way we would try to keep the master reserves whole, which means we wouldn't have significant jumps in the master reserve like you saw last year. Our master reserve, the capital assessment, went up 52% last year. We do not want to see that happen again. And lastly, there was some confusion about voting the proxies for this meeting and the voting on the declaration amendments. If you filled out a proxy for this annual meeting, that was solely to make quorum at this meeting. That had nothing to do with a vote on the declaration. That all starts tomorrow. You'll get an email from Vote Now, probably in the morning tomorrow. Again, it's one vote per household, but we are emailing to both email addresses. You have a voter code per address, so it's only allowed one vote, but that will come out tomorrow directly from Vote Now. That's all I have. So we will go to Q&A.
So this is an open forum, so if you have questions, you certainly can ask additional questions of Howard and Brian, but if you have other topics that you'd like to discuss, we'd be happy to do that now. Linda, if you would please, you know the drill.
So it's no surprise.
Go back to the microphone, please.
It's no surprise to Kim or Joe that I am here, because I'm the one, and my husband, we are the ones who are being vandalized in Brayburn. We had our 6th attack on Saturday night. They come, one individual comes between 8:45 and 9:45 consistently. The kid is very strong because we live in a townhouse, 2nd floor, and he's able to get this through the screens from the 16th fairway. So your attitude about we have a little problem with vandals annoys me, Tim, because this is not a little problem. This belongs to Stonebridge. I don't even know where this conservation area is. It's the first time they threw this one. This is the 6th poker I have collected. Through my screens, in the lanai, and if we
we were sitting there and were hit by this, we could be dead. The mention of closing gates at airport pulling is almost laughable. Anybody can walk through airport pulling. Anybody can climb the fence over on 15. The same kids damaged the bathroom on 15. I have gotten the name of the kid who was picked up the last time in November, and I found out where he goes to school. I found out that he has a father or uncle with the same name, and the reason that I know the kid is because his name is so unusual that you could not have more than one of them in Naples. I asked for help from the management here and got none, because it's my house, my screens. These are Stonebridge property, and Stonebridge needs to take care of its residents. I am really upset, as you can tell. I don't know what to do to protect us. This is 6 times, and it's always in the same area. Me, our house. Why they picked us, I don't know. But we have attorneys on staff or that we use for things with Stonebridge, and the police, the sheriff's department, has told me that because this kid, whose name I have, is a minor, so we know, I can't do it. I can't do anything, and they will not give me more information. However, if we had an attorney filing a civil claim against this kid and his father or uncle, then the police have to respond to the attorneys. And I'm publicly asking for help from Stonebridge, because I don't know what else to do.
Okay.
No, Mrs. Taylor, I completely sympathize. I do. Please don't take it as if I'm being flippant or not listening. I didn't know the name until you mentioned that. They had told us that they could not give the name because it was a minor. That's what we were told by the police. Well, I didn't have the name until this week. So let's work together. I think if that's a solution, the police haven't told us that that could be a solution to get an attorney involved. That's the first I've heard of it. Let's work together and get it done. Yeah. I'll get with you after. Joe will get with you after. Yes, Mrs. Mulligan.
Susan Mulligan, Middleburg. Could you clarify, the board can now spend up to $2 million at their discretion. And this year we had a deficit and we had an assessment. Where would that $2 million come from?
Well, there is no two.
Right, so
it is in the guidelines and documents that give the board the authority to spend that. Sorry. It's in the documents that gives the board the authority. There's no plan to do that. It just gives the board the plan.
So if you had the authority,
if something were to happen, like a roof blew off something, it would be in a storm, it would be impractical to try to muster up a vote of the members before we would fix the roof. So the board has to have some financial authority to react to circumstances that are reasonable. And $2 million for an operation this large is not an unreasonable number. That's the reason for that.
well, I understand that, but would that be assessment that we would make up the money? Where does that, if we don't have $2 million, do we pay it, the members?
Well, the members pay for
I know
pay for
that,
everything.
But I'm just,
It would come out of reserves or another fund that we would be able to tap into. Howard, you may want to speak to the specifics.
Susan, that is part of the reason that we want to do the resale fee, so we have the money to do the kinds of things that we need to do. You know, if you think about an air conditioner in just this one air conditioner for this room is $130,000 to $132,000. You know, we can't go to a vote for everything that happens around
no,
here.
I agree. I didn't understand where you would have access to that money. That was the question.
If we didn't have the money, it would be an assessment.
Okay.
If we have the money in the resale fee, we could use that. I consider See, I consider the resale fee, this is only me, this is not, I consider the resale fee to be for stuff like the gates and the fence and, trying to figure out ways to have better security. I don't consider it to be for major capital improvements. So if you're going to spend money to at one point we thought about doing a new building for the fitness center or community center. That's not on the table now, but I don't consider the resale fee to be part of that. I consider it to be for stuff that is not on the master reserve list, but improvements and incremental improvements, not major improvements.
Well, thank you. My question was separate from the resale. I understand that. I just was confused about where the funds would come from, but you answered it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Please go back to, we have people online, and they can't hear you if you speak, so please, that's all right, I understand.
I want to apologize for being overexcited, and so I'm not normally this angry.
Thank you. We're obviously sorry that's happening. Tim has taken accountability and assigned Joe, who handles everything anyway, so it may as well be him.
Welcome to be the AGM, Joe.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi, Denny.
Hello, I'm Dennis Kenny. I'm at 1625 Winding Oaks Way, and I just have two thoughts about this, what I've heard tonight. And I think about how important practically is this resale fee. If I was going to be buying a home down in this general area, and my wife had her heart set on a club that was charging $15,000, and I looked at Stonebridge, and it was less, at $6,000 or $8,000 or whatever. And I said to her, listen, forget that Vanderbilt or whatever. We're buying here because the resale fee is less. I don't think we would be buying here. So I think there's a practical aspect of the marketability in your own household of what home you're going to be buying. So this is just a practical thing, but I also, as far as this intrusion in our perimeter of our golf club here, I think about what I read on the internet, and it said as far as breaking and entering a country club grounds means entering the property of the country club without permission, often with the intent of committing a crime inside, which could include trespassing on the golf course, accessing restricted areas like country club house, entering a building on the property without authorization, even if the physical breaking is required to gain entrance, essentially is considered trespassing with the criminal intent to be on the property. And so I think this is a trespass in our home, because our perimeter of our home isn't just my unit here, and so I think that's my 2 cents in this matter.
Okay,
It's
thank you.
so serious to have people that are invading our home needs to be addressed, and I appreciate very much that it's been brought to everyone's attention and that the board is going to certainly take appropriate action. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. Are there any other comments? Yes, we have a gentleman in the back who's coming up. I guess we have 2 gentlemen.
Hi, everyone. Joe Barillo, 2090 Aberdeen, just moved in about a year ago. Thank to the board for all your hard work. Question for you guys, or more of a comment. You talked about the AC being 130 grand and the increase in the, I'm going to call them a membership fee. It sounds more friendly than a resale value. So I'll call it a membership fee, is $250 a year. We burned through half of that. So real question I have for you is, what is the cap you guys are thinking about to put on it? I know you said 12 to 15, but we didn't put a number on it. If I vote yes, what's the cap for the vote?
The cap is 17,000 and change, right?
Yeah, 17,200.
17,200 is what this amendment would allow us to do.
Okay.
If we need to go higher than that, we would have to have another amendment to change that. And our intention would not be to do that initially. We want to be comparable.
Okay.
We don't necessarily want to be the low-price person. We don't necessarily want to be the higher-price community. We want to be comparable. And I think that's what the board would vote to do.
Have you guys thought about maybe stepping that up, right? You have some great research on resale value, so on and so forth. I think the one lady was talking about, 3% versus a 0.5%. I agree that it should be equal across the board because of the amenities we get. But would you think about, hey, 17.5 is the number, vote yes, but let's go from 6 to 12, see what happens to resale values of the houses. If there's no impact and membership increases because we're more competitive, maybe we go to 17 before we take another
We
vote.
certainly could do that. And that's why the gentleman did an awful lot of research, spoke to real estate folks, spoke to consultants, spoke to associations that we partake in, and collectively, the information provided it really is irrelevant. It really doesn't matter. In fact, if you look at it from a reverse standpoint, everybody who would be buying in this area in a bundle community would all buy in Stonebridge because we're half the price of resale fee of any other community, and we know that's not the case. People do look at Vanderbilt, they do look at Vasari and other communities because they think those communities are right for them. So if this was a factor that was overwhelmingly significant financially, we wouldn't have to put any resale signs up at all because people would want to buy here automatically. And that's really not the case.
And due respect on that, there's theoretical and practical.
What's that?
Meaning, there's theoretical, like the studies say this, but when I go to sell my house, I sell it for $50,000 less. So you can just take that as a point. I would like to see it stepped up to see what the reactions are to the marketplace on how that transpires. Because like we said, $250 paying for an AC for $130 grand, that's half.
All right,
half going away.
appreciate your comment. Thank you for
man.
sharing with us.
Thanks, Rob. Totally appreciate it.
Had someone else coming up? Evening, Dick.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for your presentation. I see the resale fees coming in at 12.5 or whatever it may be. I would really suggest you go right to your maximized limit for a very simple reason. All I need to hear is what Tim said. Air conditioning costs, we're looking at 80,000. Next thing comes in 150.
Yeah.
You don't have enough in those reserves. And frankly, the replacement cost of everything you have in the last year and a half is probably up over 10%. And in many cases, probably more than that. My simple example, friends, is I had to go buy a new refrigerator just last week. I bought a new one when I moved in 2015. Cost me $658. My wife keeps those figures. The one last week cost me $1,500, and it has less going for it than the prior one. So you have to build up your financial flexibility, and this resale fee is no impediment to anybody moving into this community. It maintains the high-quality standards that we set. I don't care where Vanderbilt is or where Fisaro is. It's our country club, it's our amenities, and the responsibility for all of us here is to maintain the high standards which we've become accustomed to. Thank you.
Agreed, absolutely. And as mentioned earlier, the board has now the flexibility to put this where we think it makes sense in the community. Are there any other comments or questions that people have? Going once? Going twice? Okay, thank you all. We have a couple more items that we would like to discuss before we depart. And I'd like to ask Kim Adams, who's the secretary of the board and is in charge of the Thomas Brooks Volunteer Award, to present that award at this meeting. Kim?
Well, I am really excited to be awarding this award to two very, very deserving people. And we'll start with the first person. This person has brought a whole new sport to Stonebridge this year. And boy, did he bring it. 64 teams, 300 players. To quote this gentleman, bocce has little to do with rolling balls. It's all about building a community. This sport is wonderful on so many levels, but it's really perfect for Stonebridge members who have aged out of other sports. I personally have met dozens of new people I don't think I would have met without bocce. And Stonebridge's revenue is surely increased by Monday and Tuesday bistro activity. I am so proud to announce that Max Borden is our first winner of the Brooks Award tonight. Bocce up. Thank you, Max.
Yes, I had a very successful law practice in Lafayette and West Lafayette, Indiana. Purdue University is at West Lafayette. And they had trouble with the business school. They needed a lawyer to teach business law there, to be accredited. And they approached me and asked me if I'd teach it. And I said, on two conditions. The class has to be at 7:30 and 8:30 in the morning on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And the second, I don't want to ever go to a faculty meeting. But I'm very proud that this man standing beside me, he was an A student at Purdue University School of Business. And what a wonderful life he's had and all he's contributed, and especially here at Stonebridge. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. I just want to thank a few people. I didn't do this bocce thing all by myself. I have a great committee. Paul and Bert and Carolyn and Eunice, they show up most nights to help me with the bocce. But I really want to thank the tennis community for sharing their facilities. It's worked out great for us, and I hope it hasn't impacted their thing. And I'll just have to say, next year it'll probably grow a little, and bocce up.
Okay. We have one other recipient. This individual embodies the spirit and camaraderie that is Stonebridge. He has served on our board of directors, not right now, for 6 different years. He has chaired dozens of committees, but this person has taken his volunteerism one step further. He has enhanced Stonebridge's reputation in Collier County. He has done this by championing a student mentoring program at Immokalee High School. Many of you have probably enjoyed watching the teams of students presenting their pitches to a room full of Stonebridge members. For many of these kids, it is their first trip outside Immokalee. He has also increased Stonebridge's visibility as the captain of the Stonebridge marshalling team at the CME tournament for the past 10 years. I am very excited to announce that Bob Henry is also the winner of the Brooks Award this year.
Yeah. I just want to say how fortunate we all at Stonebridge have been to have Bob Henry and his lovely wife.
Reverse.
Huh?
Reverse.
Here in Stonebridge for what they have done all these years for our community. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tom. Well, I don't have much to say other than, as Max said, I don't do this alone. There's a team of volunteers, has been for every year that we go out there, who are dedicated to the folks in Immokalee. They love the students, they love the teacher, they love the community. I did not take a class with Tom. I would not get up at 7:30, and I certainly wasn't an A student in my undergraduate. So I failed on all those accounts. But thank you very much. I really appreciate it, and hopefully we're going to keep it going. Immokalee is a great community, and they need as much support as we can give them. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move it along, and thanks again to Bob and Max. So incredibly deserving. Oh, here's Steve Whitehead.
Thanks, Kim. I'll see if I can get this back in there. There we go. All right, each year, as you all are aware, we turn over a portion of our board, and it is fallen upon me to say adieu to a couple of our members. Unfortunately, sometimes we get somebody at a very weak moment and they agree to stick around a little bit longer. So we're only saying goodbye to two of our board members this year. So Kathy Rushock first. Kathy has served on the board since 2022, chairing the Strategic Planning Committee during her first 2 years and chairing both the Grievance Committee and the Legal and Governance Committee in her final year. During her tenure, leading strategic planning, the committee thoroughly reviewed our strategic plan and developed specific recommendations for turning words into action. I believe she was told that the Grievance Committee is typically light work, and you might never need to even hold a meeting. Well, there was nothing typical about 2024. 4 formal grievances were filed, with 3 of them going all the way to the board for action. Grievances are serious matters that take many, many hours on the part of the committee to investigate thoroughly and ultimately to make recommendations to the board. It is a thankless job, and Kathy handled it with skill and grace. Her work on the Legal and Governance Committee is one that this membership will remember for years to come. As Tim mentioned, Kathy researched club industry best practices and recognized an opportunity to better align board and committee service with the club's seasonality. Currently, committee membership changes in March after the annual meeting. So just as committees are getting organized, the season ends, and many committee members depart for summer residences. While Zoom calls work, they just aren't as effective as meeting in person. Then in the fall, when the committees are ramping back up, the end of the term comes quickly in February. Kathy brought this issue to management, who worked with our auditors to tighten up our audit schedule, which was no small feat in itself, to allow for an early January annual meeting. This will allow committees to be formed and functioning in January, thereby taking advantage of the full peak season while most members are on site. So beginning in 2026, as Tim mentioned, the annual meeting will be on the second Monday of January. Thank you, Kathy, for this accomplishment. It has been a pleasure to work with you, and a grateful board and community. Thank you for your service. And last but not least, certainly not least, Bill Burnett has served on the board since 2022, last year as vice president, and this year as our president. He was greatly involved in the golf course renovation and bistro construction projects, from numerous construction meetings to the grand opening celebration planning. Bill spent countless hours on what was the greatest initiative ever undertaken at Stonebridge Country Club. And he did all this on the heels of the last phases of COVID, during which he provided steady leadership and guidance as we worked our way through. In his first year on the board, he chaired the Communications and IT Committee and the Tennis and Fitness Committee. He continued to chair these standing committees during his second year and also led the Renovation Celebration Ad Hoc Committee. His vision was to plan a celebration equal to the scale of what had been accomplished, and it certainly was. Additionally, he somehow found time to be the vice chair of the nominating committee. In this third year of his term, now ending, Bill served ably as president, where he has always offered an open ear to any and all members, one-on-one and in small group discussions concerning everything from perimeter plannings, as you heard, to bocce, to sessions about the proposed declaration amendments on which we will soon be voting. Bill, it has been a privilege and an honor to serve with you, and we thank you for your service to our community.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hang on. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. And Kathy, thank you for your service. We appreciate it very much. So the good news is you get rid of us, we have to name some wonderful people to replace us who will do an outstanding job. First of all, we were very privileged to learn that Howard Nottingham has offered and has been accepted the recommendation of the board to stay on the board for another term. And Howard, we thank you very much for doing that. You've got. I'm not going to give you anything right now.
I didn't know there was a memento involved.
You got it. You get it in 3 years. But we have two outstanding candidates to replace those of us who are leaving. First is Steve Brown. Steve is a excellent member of the Finance Committee, has been involved with a lot of activities here this year, and his recommendation was unanimously accepted. I don't know what role you'll play, Steve. That's up to the new board, but congratulations. Welcome to the board. Well-deserved. Appreciate all you've done so far. Stand up. Stand up. Yeah. And the second candidate, equally accepted, equally challenging all of us to do things better, also a member currently of the Finance Committee, is Warren Ruppel. Warren has had a lot of experiences with clubs. In fact, he had some experiences that we will use in his new position. And we're delighted, Warren, to welcome you to the board. I know you'll be a great addition to the board. Congratulations. Welcome to the board. And unless anybody has anything else we could possibly talk about, except for Brian.
Yeah, just real quick, I apologize, but, I was really remiss in, Howard, when Howard was doing his presentation, up on the screen was the number of people that were involved in developing these amendments, coming up with them, and helping to push them forward. I think the real point there is that these amendments were a member-driven initiative. It was all those people on committees that drove this. Howard chaired one of the committees, I chaired one of the committees, but it was the members on those committees, and now the group that is really getting the information out on this that were the keys. So I was remiss in not thanking all of them for all of that. So thank you. And I just want to also just thank quickly, see him back there. In turn, getting information, a lot of you sort of finished our presentation because you brought up the fact that getting 536 votes is not easy. So that's really key here. And, we're going to continue to get information out. We're going to make it available. You can put Q&A questions on, well, you shouldn't really answer them. You just should put the question out there on the website, and we will answer them. So, we've done a lot of that. And I just want to thank Larry Trowell, who's sitting in the back, because he's sort of spearheading all of that for us, and it's a load of work. And I know he's been working closely with Bill Mulligan and a bunch of other people to do that. And that's going to be an ongoing process. This is an open 60-day vote. So I want to thank him and everyone else that's working with him on that. And the only thing I just want to reiterate, go ahead. And I just want to reiterate again before we finish here that make an informed vote. Seriously, talk to someone that has the information, give you the information, ask questions. Howard and I, seriously, we would be happy to talk to 799 owners here to get this passed, to get the right information out. So if you have any questions, anything at all that you're not sure of, please reach out to us, reach out to someone, reach out to Tim or wherever, and ask the questions and get the answers you deserve to make your vote. So thank you, but do vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? There are about 200 people that attended this session. I don't know how many homes that reflects on. But what I would ask you to do, don't let this vote fail because you didn't take the time to look it over. And help us talk to your neighbors and your friends and ask them the same question. If you don't want this, that's okay. It is a member-driven project, as mentioned, and if the members don't want it to happen, we accept that. But let's not let this not happen because we didn't pay enough attention and took a few minutes to review it and made an informed vote. With that, I will take a motion. Motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you very much.